The doorbell rang for the third time in 5 minutes, each chime more insistent than the last. I knew exactly who it was. My sister's special talent for turning simple requests into full-blown emergencies hadn't changed since childhood. With a deep breath, I opened the door to find Jill standing there, mascara-stained tissues clutched in her perfectly manicured hands. "Joe, you have to help me. The venue canceled and my wedding is ruined." She burst into fresh tears, pushing past me into my living room. I'm Josephine, by the way, the responsible older sister who's spent her entire life picking up the pieces of Jill's dramatic disasters. "What happened?" I asked, already dreading the answer. "They double booked. Can you believe it? 6 months before my wedding." Jill collapsed onto my cream sofa, her designer handbag spilling onto the floor. "Mom and Dad are devastated. We've already sent out save the dates." I sat across from her, noting how she'd managed to make our parents' reaction the second thing she mentioned. Classic Jill. "That's terrible. But surely there are other venues available." "In June? Everything decent is booked solid." She suddenly sat up straight, her tears miraculously drying. "But then I had the most amazing idea. Your house is perfect." My stomach dropped. "My house? It's gorgeous, Joe. The backyard is huge, and that pergola would be amazing with fairy lights. Plus, think of all the money we'd save." "Jill, I don't think—" My phone buzzed. Mom's name flashed on the screen. I answered, already knowing what was coming. "Josephine, your sister just told me about the venue. Isn't it wonderful that you can help?" Mom's voice carried that familiar tone, the one that meant, "Don't you dare disappoint us." "Mom, hosting a wedding is a huge undertaking. My house isn't—" "Don't be selfish, Joe. Your sister needs you. Remember when you needed help with your down payment?" I bit my tongue. The loan they'd given me, which I'd fully repaid, was their favorite guilt trip. "Fine," I conceded, "but we need to set some ground rules." Jill squealed, launching herself at me for a hug. "You're the best. Oh, and one tiny detail. I'll need to stay here until the wedding. You know, to oversee everything." I pulled back. "What? No, absolutely not." "But Joe, I can't coordinate everything from across town. Plus, my lease is up next month, and it just makes sense to save money before the wedding." My phone buzzed again. This time it was Dad. "Princess," he said when I answered, "your mother tells me you're being difficult about helping your sister." "Dad, she wants to move in. Just for a few months. You have that spare room you never use. Family helps family, remember?" I looked at Jill, who was already texting rapidly on her phone, probably telling her bridesmaids the good news. She glanced up with that winning smile that had gotten her everything she wanted since we were kids. "The movers will be here tomorrow," she announced cheerfully. "I haven't said yes." "Oh, come on, Joe, it'll be fun, like when we were kids, remember?" She grabbed my hands. "Please, I promise I won't be any trouble." Another text from Mom. "Don't ruin this for your sister." I felt the familiar weight of family expectations settling on my shoulders. My carefully organized life was about to be turned upside down, and I could already see the train wreck coming. But what choice did I have? 3 months, I said firmly. "The wedding's in June. That's plenty of time." "You're the absolute best." Jill hugged me again, then immediately pulled out a notebook. "Okay, so I'm thinking we'll need to move your furniture around. That bookshelf has to go. It'll ruin the photos. And we should probably repaint. That gray is so dreary." As she rattled off her plans for transforming my house, my phone buzzed one more time. It was my best friend, Lucian. "Drinks tonight? You sound like you need them." I typed back quickly. "God, yes. My sister's moving in tomorrow. Send help." Looking at Jill taking measurements of my living room walls, I had no idea just how prophetic that plea for help would become. But I was about to find out exactly how far my sister would go to have her perfect wedding, and how far I'd go to stop her. 2 weeks into Jill's stay, I came home to find my living room transformed into a wedding command center. Fabric swatches covered my coffee table, Pinterest boards were taped to my walls, and my sister sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by a sea of bridal magazines. "Joe, perfect timing!" Jill waved a color palette in my face. "Which do you prefer, Blush Dream or Rose Whisper?" They looked identical to me. "They're both pink?" "Ugh, you're hopeless." She tossed the swatches aside. "Mom has a much better eye for these things. She's coming over in 10 minutes, by the way. Of course she was. Mom had been here every day since Jill moved in, cooing over wedding details and rearranging my furniture when she thought I wasn't looking. The doorbell rang, and Mom burst in without waiting for an answer. "Girls, I brought dinner." She held up takeout bags from an expensive restaurant I couldn't afford. "Mom, you're amazing!" Jill jumped up to help with the bags. "I got your favorite, sweetheart," Mom said to Jill, then glanced at me. "Joe, I wasn't sure what you'd want, so I just got you a salad." I've been allergic to pine nuts my entire life. The salad was, naturally, covered in them. "Thanks, Mom," I said, heading to the kitchen to make myself a sandwich. "Joe," Mom called after me, "don't you want to help us with the planning? This is your sister's special day." I returned to find them huddled over a guest list. "Actually, I wanted to ask about that. When are we discussing the wedding party details?" Jill and Mom exchanged a look that made my stomach clench. "About that," Jill began, twisting her hair. Her tell when she's about to say something awful. "I've been thinking, maybe you could help more behind the scenes." "Behind the scenes?" "Well, since it's your house, you'll be so busy making sure everything runs smoothly. Plus, Rachel's been my best friend since college, and she's always dreamed of being my maid of honor." "I'm your sister," I said, my voice flat. Mom jumped in. "Josephine, don't start. Your sister needs everyone focused on making her day perfect. You understand, don't you?" I didn't understand. Not at all. But before I could respond, Jill's phone chimed. "The florist is here!" she squealed. "They're bringing samples!" The doorbell rang again, and suddenly my house was filled with buckets of flowers, 3 wedding planners, and Jill's entire bridal party. Rachel, the apparent maid of honor, gave me a dismissive once-over before turning to Jill. "This house has potential," she said, "but that kitchen wallpaper has to go." "I know, right?" Jill agreed. "Joe, we're thinking of having it stripped tomorrow." "You're not stripping anything," I said firmly. "This is still my house." "Don't be difficult," Mom scolded. "We're trying to help you improve things." I retreated to my room, pulling out my phone to text Lucian. "They're planning to renovate my house without asking. Send wine." His response was immediate. "On my way. Also, bringing my lawyer friend Amara. You might need her." "It's not that serious," I typed back, just as a crash echoed from the living room. "Oops!" Jill's voice carried up the stairs. "Joe won't mind. That vase was kind of dated anyway." That vase was from Grandma. I walked downstairs to find the shattered remains of my grandmother's last gift to me before she died. Jill was already directing one of the planners to sweep it up, not even looking apologetic. "Oh, good, you're back," Mom beamed. "We've made executive decisions about the backyard. That herb garden of yours needs to go to make room for the dance floor. And we'll need your master bedroom for the bridal suite," Jill added. "You can sleep in the guest room that week." I stared at them, these women who shared my blood but seemed to have forgotten I was a person, not just a convenient venue provider. "No," I said quietly. "What was that?" Mom asked sharply. "I said no. This is my house. You can't just—" "After everything we've done for you?" Mom's voice rose. "Your sister needs this one thing and you're being selfish?" "One thing?" I laughed. "She's taken over my house, excluded me from her wedding party, and now you want me to give up my bedroom?" "It's just for a week," Jill pouted. "Why do you always have to make everything so difficult?" My phone buzzed. "Lucien. Amara and I are 5 minutes away. Hold your ground." Looking at my sister and mother's expectant faces, I realized this was just the beginning. They weren't going to stop until they'd taken everything, and somehow I'd still be the villain of their story. Well, they were about to learn that this villain had teeth. I stood in my driveway at 7 a.m., staring at my own front door in disbelief. My key wouldn't turn in the lock. I tried again, jiggling it harder, but nothing. "The locks have been changed," Jill's voice came through the Ring doorbell camera. "We need you to give us some space while we finish the wedding preparations." "Are you kidding me? Let me in. This is my house." Mom's face appeared in the doorway window. "Josephine, after your behavior last night, we decided this would be best for everyone. You're too negative about the wedding plans." "My behavior? You mean when I objected to you ripping out my garden without permission?" "See?" Mom turned to someone inside. She's being hysterical again. I pulled out my phone and called Dad. He answered on the fourth ring, sounding tired. Dad, they've locked me out of my own house. Princess, your mother thinks it's best if you take a little break, just until the wedding. You can stay at our place. I'm not staying anywhere. This is my house. I have a mortgage. Don't make this harder than it needs to be, he sighed. You know how important this is to your sister. I ended the call and dialed Lucian. They did what? He exploded when I told him. Stay there. I'm calling Amara. 20 minutes later, Lucian's car pulled up, with Amara in the passenger seat. She stepped out, looking every bit the power lawyer in her crisp suit. Tell me exactly what happened, she said, pulling out a notepad. I explained everything while Jill watched through the window, occasionally making faces at us. Do you have your rental agreement with your sister? Amara asked. Rental agreement? I frowned. She just moved in. There's nothing formal. Amara's eyes lit up. No formal agreement? And she's changed the locks without notice? That's actually better for us. My phone buzzed with a text from Jill. Stop making a scene. The wedding planner is coming to discuss the demolition of the garden wall. They're planning construction on my property now? I showed Amara the text. Without permits, I assume, she mused. This gets better by the minute. Suddenly, the front door opened. Rachel, the maid of honor, strutted out with a stack of my mail. These were cluttering up the entryway, she said, dumping the envelopes at my feet. Oh, and Jill says you can collect your clothes later. We needed your closet space for the wedding dresses. As Rachel sashayed back inside, Amara picked up my scattered mail. Her eyebrows shot up as she examined one envelope. This is from the city planning office, she said. May I? I nodded, and she opened it. A slow smile spread across her face. Well, well, it seems your sister filed for event permits using this address. But she's not the property owner, is she? No, I am. And these permits require the property owner's signature. Amara held up the document. This signature, is it yours? I looked at the clearly forged signature. No, that's not mine. Permit fraud, Amara said cheerfully. Now we're talking. She pulled out her phone and made a call, speaking in rapid legal terms I barely understood. When she hung up, she turned to me with a determined expression. Here's what we're going to do. First, we're documenting everything. The locked door, the fraudulent permits, the unauthorized occupancy. Then we're filing for an emergency injunction. What does that mean? I asked. It means, she smiled, that your sister's perfect wedding venue might not be so perfect after all. Lucian put his arm around my shoulders. You okay? I watched through the window as Jill directed workers to move my furniture into the garage. Mom hovered nearby, pointing out where the wedding arch should go, right where my grandmother's reading chair used to sit. You know what? I am okay. I picked up my mail from the ground. They think they can just take everything from me because we're family? Let's show them what real consequences look like. Amara was already typing on her tablet. I'll have the paperwork ready by this afternoon. In the meantime, don't contact them. Let them think they've won. As we drove away, I caught one last glimpse of my house in the rearview mirror. Jill and Mom stood in the window, looking triumphant. They had no idea what was coming. I pulled out my phone and texted Lucian. Think we should tell them about the property inspection scheduled for next week? His response made me smile for the first time that day. Nah, let them enjoy their victory lap. The best revenge is the one they never see coming. Looking at the forged permit in my hand, I realized they'd finally gone too far. And this time, being the difficult sister was going to pay off. Your sister did what? Judge Harrison leaned forward, peering over her reading glasses at the documents Amara had presented. Change the locks, Your Honor, Amara replied. And as you can see from these photos, they've already begun unauthorized modifications to the property. We were in the judge's chambers for an emergency hearing 3 days after I'd been locked out. The judge flipped through the file, occasionally making disapproving noises. And this permit application? She held up the document with the forged signature. That's not my signature, I confirmed. I never authorized any of this. The judge turned to the city inspector who'd joined us. Mr. Peters, your findings? The planned modifications violate multiple building codes, he stated. They've already removed load-bearing elements without permits. The property isn't zoned for events of this size, and the temporary structures they're installing pose significant safety risks. My phone buzzed. A text from Jill. The wedding arch delivery is here. You should see how amazing everything looks now that your stuffy furniture is gone. I showed the message to Amara, who added it to her growing file of evidence. Your Honor, Amara continued, my client isn't just seeking to regain access to her home. We're requesting an immediate cease and desist on all construction and event planning activities. The judge studied the documents for what felt like eternity. Finally, she looked up. This is one of the most egregious cases of property rights violation I've seen. Ms. Josephine, have you attempted to resolve this within the family? They won't listen, I said. They think because they helped with my down payment, which I repaid in full, they have some right to take over my house. I see. The judge signed several documents. I'm granting the emergency injunction. All construction must stop immediately, and you'll have police escort to regain access to your property. As we left the courthouse, Lucian was waiting with coffee. How'd it go? We won, Amara smiled. Now comes the fun part. My phone rang. Mom, I put it on speaker. Josephine, what's this nonsense about inspectors? They're trying to stop our contractors. Those contractors don't have permits, Mom. We have permits, she snapped. With my forged signature, I replied calmly. That's fraud. Silence. Then, your sister is in tears. Is that what you wanted? What I want is my house back. Fine, Mom's voice rose. Come get your precious house, but don't expect to be welcome at the wedding. Oh, there won't be a wedding, Amara cut in smoothly. Not at this address anyway. Who is this? Josephine, are you with a lawyer? Meet my attorney, Mom. She's very interested in the permit fraud. More silence. Then the sound of Jill grabbing the phone. You can't do this to me, she shrieked. My wedding is in 3 weeks. Everything's paid for. Should have thought of that before locking me out of my own house, I replied. We'll sue you, Jill threatened. Amara laughed. Please do. I'd love to present this case in court. Lucian touched my arm, pointing down the street. A police car was waiting to escort us to my house. Got to go, I told my sister. The police are ready to help me reclaim my property. Police? Jill's voice cracked. You called the police on your own family? No, the judge did. See you soon, sis. As we drove to my house, Amara reviewed the injunction terms. They have 1 hour to vacate. Any resistance, and they'll be removed by force. They won't go quietly, I warned. They don't have a choice, she replied. And here's the best part. We're filing for damages. Every unauthorized modification, every day they denied you access, it all adds up. We pulled up to my house, just as a construction crew was attempting to install a massive wedding arch in my driveway. Mom stood supervising while Jill directed them from her phone. Officer Landon, who'd been assigned to the case, stepped out of his car. Ladies, he called out, I have a court order requiring all construction to cease immediately. Mom spun around. We have permits. Fraudulent ones, Landon replied, showing her the paperwork. Everyone needs to clear the property within the hour. But my wedding, Jill wailed. Should have gotten legal permits, Landon shrugged. I watched as the reality of their situation finally sank in. Mom's face turned red, Jill crumpled onto the lawn in tears, and the construction crew began packing up, grumbling about unpaid invoices. Ready to go home? Lucian asked quietly. I nodded, clutching the new keys the locksmith had made. Looking at my sister sobbing on my lawn, I felt a mix of satisfaction and sadness, but mostly I felt free. Time to see what they've done to my house, I said, stepping forward. Behind me, I heard Amara on the phone, already arranging for a full property assessment. The real estate agent's words from when I bought this house echoed in my mind. A house is more than walls and windows. It's a statement about who you are. Time to show them exactly who I am. The damage was worse than I'd imagined. Standing in my living room, I surveyed the chaos, holes in the walls where they'd planned to install decorative archways, my hardwood floors scratched from moving furniture, and a half-demolished garden wall visible through the window. Document everything, Amara instructed, while a photographer snapped pictures. Every scratch, every unauthorized modification. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since we entered the house. Dad's latest message read, "Princess, your mother's having a breakdown. Can't we discuss this?" "Don't respond," Lucian advised, helping me sort through a pile of mail they'd hidden from me. "Let Amara handle all communication." The doorbell rang. Officer Landon stepped in, looking uncomfortable. "Ms. Josephine, your sister's outside with a moving truck. She's demanding to collect her things." "Her things?" I laughed. "You mean my things that she redistributed throughout the house?" "I'll handle this," Amara said, heading for the door. I followed, curious to see how this would play out. Jill stood by a massive moving truck, mascara running down her face. Rachel and 2 other bridesmaids flanked her like angry bodyguards. "I need my wedding supplies," Jill demanded. "Everything in there is paid for." "Actually," Amara pulled out a document. "According to the credit card statements my client subpoenaed, most items were charged to her home equity line of credit without her authorization." Jill's face went pale. "That's not, identity theft," Amara continued pleasantly. "Should we add that to the growing list of charges?" "You're ruining everything," Jill screamed at me. "Mom was right. You've always been jealous of me." "Jealous?" I stepped forward. "You forged my signature, stole my credit, locked me out of my house, and I'm the problem?" "Ladies," Officer Landon intervened, "let's keep this civil. Ms. Jill, you can collect your personal belongings only. Everything else stays until ownership is legally determined." Rachel snorted. "This is ridiculous. The wedding's in 3 weeks. We have deposits with vendors, guests flying in." "Not my problem," I said. "Maybe you shouldn't have planned a wedding at a venue you didn't have permission to use." My phone buzzed again. This time it was an unknown number. I answered, putting it on speaker. "This is Sandra from Elegant Events," a clipped voice announced. "We're calling about the venue change for the McCarthy wedding." Jill lunged for my phone. "No, don't tell them." "The property is no longer available," I said clearly. "In fact, it was never legally available. You might want to check the validity of your contracts." Jill crumpled onto my front steps, sobbing dramatically. "My life is ruined." "Your life?" I gestured at my house. "Look what you did to my home. The contractors say it'll take weeks to repair everything." "We were improving it," Rachel jumped in. "That boring beige living room needed updating anyway." Amara cleared her throat. "Officer Landon, please supervise as they collect their personal items. Anything purchased with my client's credit is to remain." "That's everything," Jill wailed. "The dresses, the decorations, the catering deposits." "All fraudulently charged to my account," I finished, "so I guess they're mine now." The next hour was excruciating. Under Landon's watchful eye, Jill and her friends collected their clothes and personal items, while Amara documented everything they tried to take that had been purchased with my credit. As they loaded the last box, Mom's car screeched into the driveway. "Stop this right now!" she demanded, storming up the walkway. "Josephine, you're taking this too far." "Taking it too far?" I laughed. "Like when you changed my locks? Or when you forged my signature? Or maybe when you tried to demolish my garden?" "We were helping," Mom insisted. "Your house needed updating, and this way everyone would benefit." "Mrs. McCarthy," Amara stepped forward, "I strongly advise you to leave the property. Any further attempts at entry will be considered trespassing." Mom's face contorted. "You ungrateful little... after everything we've done for you." "Done for me?" I felt something snap inside. "You mean like always favoring Jill? Or using that down payment to control me? Or maybe you mean helping her steal my identity?" Silence fell. Even Jill stopped crying. "Identity theft is a felony," Amara added helpfully. "Would you like to discuss that with Officer Landon?" Mom's face went from red to white. Without another word, she grabbed Jill's arm and dragged her toward the car. As they drove away, Lucian put his arm around my shoulders. "You okay?" I watched the moving truck follow my mother's car, taking my sister and her wedding dreams with it. "I will be." "Don't celebrate yet," Amara warned, checking her phone. "They've still got 3 weeks until the wedding date. People like this don't give up easily." She was right. this wasn't over. But for the first time since this nightmare began, I was ready for whatever came next. The morning of Jill's intended wedding day dawned bright and clear. I sat at my kitchen window, nursing a coffee and watching my newly repaired garden wall glowing in the sunrise. My phone buzzed, a text from Officer Landon. Heads up, large group gathering at the end of your street. Wedding guests, I assume. I checked my security cameras. Sure enough, people in formal wear were clustering on the corner, looking confused. My phone exploded with notifications. They're really doing this, I texted Amara. Already on my way, she replied. Don't engage. A familiar car pulled up to my house. Dad stepped out, wearing a tuxedo. Princess? He rang the doorbell. Can we talk? I opened the door but blocked the entrance. There's nothing to discuss. Your sister's devastated. She couldn't find another venue and all her guests are here. He shifted uncomfortably. Can't you just what, Dad? Let her take over my house again? More cars arrived. I spotted Rachel directing guests toward my driveway, while Mom supervised the parking situation like nothing was wrong. They're setting up anyway, I told Amara on the phone. My parents are acting like the injunction doesn't exist. Perfect, she said. Don't stop them yet. A catering van appeared, followed by a florist's truck. Jill emerged from a car in her wedding dress, beaming at her gathering guests. See? Mom announced loudly. Everything's fine. Josephine was just being dramatic. The wedding's proceeding as planned. I watched in disbelief as they started unloading equipment. Dad gave me a pleading look. It's happening anyway, Princess. Please don't make a scene. Amara's car pulled up, followed by Officer Landon and 2 patrol cars. She stepped out, looking like an avenging angel in her power suit. Actually, she announced, her voice carrying across my lawn, it's not happening at all. Jill stormed up in her massive white dress. You can't stop us. All our guests are here. Officer Landon, Amara smiled, please inform everyone about the active injunction. Landon raised his voice. This property is under a court order prohibiting any events. Everyone needs to leave immediately. But the wedding, someone called from the crowd. Will need to happen elsewhere, Landon replied. Anyone remaining on the property will be considered trespassing. Mom pushed forward. You wouldn't dare have your own family arrested. Try me, I said quietly. The caterers, having overheard, quickly began packing up. The florist followed suit. Guests started whispering among themselves, some already heading back to their cars. Wait! Jill screamed. Everyone stop! This is my wedding day! Not here, it's not, Amara stated, holding up the court order. Officers, please proceed. Landon stepped forward with his megaphone. This is your final warning. Clear the property now. Rachel grabbed Jill's arm. This is insane. We have to leave. No! Jill broke free, running toward my door. This is my venue. You can't ruin this. Officer Landon intercepted her. Ma'am, don't make this worse. Worse? She laughed hysterically. My sister already ruined everything. She's jealous because no one would ever want to marry her. The crowd went silent. I saw Dad wince, Mom cover her mouth, and several guests look away uncomfortably. Actually, I said clearly, I ruined nothing. You did this to yourself when you decided my house and my rights meant nothing. Officers, Amara nodded, proceed with the evacuation. What followed was both satisfying and sad. The police began systematically clearing my property, while Jill stood in her massive white dress, mascara running down her face as her perfect day crumbled. Guests hurried to their cars, some shooting apologetic looks my way, others glaring. Mom had to be practically dragged to her car by Dad, threatening legal action the whole way. This isn't over, she shouted. Actually, it is, Amara replied. Unless you'd like to discuss the credit fraud charges? That shut her up quickly. Finally, only Jill remained, her dream wedding scattered like the rose petals that had fallen from her bouquet. I hope you're happy, she spat. You've ruined everything. No, Jill. You did that when you decided being my sister meant you could take whatever you wanted. Rachel appeared, pulling Jill toward the car. Come on. Everyone's regrouping at the hotel. As they drove away, Lucian appeared beside me. You okay? I watched the last of the wedding parade disappear around the corner. You know what? I am. Good. Amara joined us, because now we move on to phase 2. Phase 2? She smiled, holding up a thick folder. The civil suit for damages. After all, someone has to pay for fixing your house. Looking at my home, still bearing the scars of Jill's attempted takeover, I nodded. Let's do it. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just stopping the wrong, it's making sure it can never happen again. 3 days after the wedding fiasco, I sat across from my family in Amara's office. The conference room felt too small for the tension filling it. $40,000? Mom's voice rose to a pitch I hadn't heard since my teenage years. This is extortion. This is the cost of repairs, Amara corrected, sliding photos across the table. Structural damage to load-bearing walls, unauthorized electrical work, destroyed landscaping, and credit card fraud. We're being quite reasonable. Jill, still looking shell-shocked from her failed wedding, stared at the photos. We were improving the property. By destroying my garden, demolishing walls without permits, I picked up a particularly damning photo of the electrical violations. The inspector said this could have burned down my house. We'll contest this, Mom declared. Please do, Amara smiled. I'd love to present the forged permits and credit card statements in court. Fraud charges would make fascinating headlines. Dad, who'd been quietly reviewing the documents, finally spoke. We can't fight this, Nancy. What? Mom turned on him. You're taking her side? Look at the evidence. He pushed the papers toward her. We went too far. All of us. Jill burst into tears, real ones this time, not her usual theatrical sobs. I just wanted a perfect wedding. At my expense, I added. You know what really gets me? You never even asked. You just assumed you could take whatever you wanted because we're family. Because that's what family does, Mom insisted. We help each other. Help? I stood up, my chair scraping back. Was it helping when you changed my locks? When you forged my signature? When you let Jill steal my credit? Silence fell. Even Mom looked away. Here's what's going to happen, Amara stated, her tone leaving no room for argument. You'll pay for all repairs and fraudulent charges. In return, we won't press criminal charges. We can't afford $40,000, Jill whispered. Actually, I pulled out my phone, showing them the screen. You can. I found your wedding Instagram account. All those posts about your generous sponsors and vendor partnerships. Jill went pale. How did you... Those sponsors might be interested to know they were part of a fraudulent event, Amara continued. Unless you'd prefer to use those funds to settle this matter? More silence. Then Dad reached for the settlement papers. Wait! Mom grabbed his arm. Josephine, please. We're your family. Exactly, I said quietly. You're my family, and you did this to me anyway. I never meant... Jill started, then stopped. I just didn't think... That's the problem. You never do. Dad picked up the pen again. How do we make this right? Sign the papers, Amara pushed them forward. Pay for the damages, and most importantly, respect my client's boundaries from now on. As Dad signed, Mom started crying. Not her usual manipulative tears, but genuine broken sobs. Where did we go wrong? She whispered. When did you start hating us? I don't hate you, I replied, surprising myself with how true it was. But I don't trust you anymore. You'll have to earn that back. Jill looked up from the papers she was signing. How? Start by taking responsibility. Stop blaming me for protecting myself. And maybe, just maybe, try seeing me as a person, not just your convenient backup plan. After they signed everything, Dad stood up. Princess, I'm sorry. We should have protected you, not taken advantage. Mom remained seated, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. This will change everything. It already has, I agreed, but maybe that's not a bad thing. As they filed out, Jill paused at the door. The vendors are letting me reschedule the wedding for next month, at a proper venue this time. She hesitated. Would you come? I studied my sister, really looked at her for the first time in years. Behind the perfect makeup and designer clothes, she looked lost. Ask me again in a few months, I said, when you've proven you understand why what you did was wrong. She nodded slowly. I think I'm starting to. After they left, Lucian appeared with coffee. You okay? No, I admitted. But I will be. Amara gathered her papers. They'll test your boundaries again. People like that always do. Let them try, I said, thinking of my newly reinforced locks and security cameras. I'm done being the family doormat. My phone buzzed, a text from Dad. I know it doesn't fix anything, but I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself, even if it was against us, especially because it was against us. Maybe that was a start. Not forgiveness, not yet, but a beginning of something new, something stronger. And this time, I'd be the one setting the terms. The doorbell rang, and this time, I didn't dread answering it. Through the security camera, I saw Jill standing alone on my porch, holding a small box. Can we talk? She asked when I opened the door. I let her in, noting how different she looked. Simpler clothes, less makeup, none of her usual dramatic flair. Your garden's looking nice, she said, glancing through the window at the newly replanted beds. The roses are beautiful. They're the same ones you had torn out, I replied. I managed to save some roots. She flinched but didn't argue. Instead, she handed me the box. Inside was Grandma's vase, or rather pieces of it. I found someone who specializes in kintsugi, she explained. It's the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery with gold. I thought, maybe it could be symbolic? I lifted out the vase, now webbed with delicate gold lines where it had shattered. It was different, but somehow more beautiful for having been broken. Mom's still angry, Jill said quietly. But Dad and I have been talking, a lot, about how we treat you, about boundaries. And I had my wedding last week, at a proper venue. It was smaller, simpler. She pulled out her phone, showing me photos. We stayed within our actual budget this time. The pictures showed a tasteful ceremony, nothing like the extravaganza she'd tried to force into my house. It looks nice, I said honestly. It was better this way. She put her phone away. I wanted to thank you, actually. That surprised me. For what? For stopping me, for making me face consequences. I've been seeing a therapist and she helped me understand some things about myself. About why I always need everything to be bigger, more dramatic, more at everyone else's expense? Yeah. She twisted her hands together. I'm not asking for everything to go back to how it was. I know I broke your trust. But maybe we could start small? Coffee sometimes? The doorbell rang again. This time it was Dad, carrying a familiar-looking box. I found these in the attic, he said when I let him in. Your old photo albums, the ones your mother relocated when Jill's pictures needed more space. I opened the box, finding pieces of my childhood I thought were lost forever. You kept them. I should have given them back years ago. He set another box down. And these are the financial records. Every penny you repaid on that down payment, with interest calculations, in case you ever need to prove it. Dad? No, let me finish. I failed you, Princess. I let your mother and sister walk all over you because it was easier than standing up to them. That stops now. Jill picked up one of the albums. Oh, wow, remember this camping trip? When I cried about the bugs and you built me that special tent? You mean when I gave up my sleeping bag so you could have extra padding, then spent the night freezing? She closed the album. I really was awful to you, wasn't I? You both were, I agreed. But you're here now, trying to make it right. That matters. Dad cleared his throat. Your mother wants to come apologize too. I told her she needs to work on her issues first. She's considering therapy. Good, I said, because I meant what I said about boundaries. We know, Jill nodded. That's why I brought this too. She pulled out an envelope. It's the last of the repayment for the damages, from selling my designer bags and that luxury car Dad helped me lease. I took the envelope. You didn't have to sell your things. Yes, I did. Actions have consequences, right? Looking at my sister and father, surrounded by pieces of the past we were trying to rebuild, I felt something shift. Not forgiveness exactly, but possibility. Anyone want coffee? I asked. I still make it better than that overpriced place you love, Jill. Yes, please, she smiled. Oh, and I have news. I'm going back to school, for interior design. Properly this time, not just Pinterest boards and magazine clippings. Really? Yeah, and I promise never to redesign your house again, unless you specifically ask. Dad picked up the kintsugi vase, examining the gold seams. Sometimes broken things come back stronger. And sometimes, I added, they come back different. But that's okay too. My phone buzzed. A text from Lucian. Everything okay over there? I looked at my sister flipping through old photos. My dad carefully holding Grandma's repaired vase, and the garden visible through the window, blooming again despite everything. Yes, I typed back. We're not fixed, but we're working on it. The right way this time. Sometimes the happy ending isn't about everything being perfect. Sometimes it's about building something new from the broken pieces, seamed with gold and stronger for the breaking. And this time we were all doing the work to build it right.